All right, welcome back to video 2 of sample exam 2. So on this one, we're going to do question 6. Write a function. So if it says write a function, that means function definition. Write a function definition called fill array. So we know that this is the name of the function is fill array. It takes one argument. It takes an integer array. So the function will prompt the user to enter integers one by one and add the integers into the array until the user enters a 0 to stop, and the function will return the count. So here when it says return the count, that means our return type is going to be the count or the number of elements that are added in the array, and that's an integer return type. Change the color. All right, so we've set it up. We have our opening curly brace and our closing curly brace. So we're going to have to decide how many variables we need. So we're going to go through the array, and we're going to have to keep an integer variable called count. So we're going to declare count. And at first, we don't have any elements in the array. And count is going to keep track of how many elements are in the array, and it's also going to move along the array. And then we're going to have a while loop. So we're going to have a while loop, and we're going to get a element from the user to put into the array, and as long as it's not a 0. So we're going to have our while loop, and we'll have a condition. So what are we going to be doing? We're going to be getting a number from the user, making sure it's not a 0, and then putting that number into the array and adding more to our count. All right, so count is going to keep track. So if we have our array, let's draw a little array over here. This is our array. Does it say what the name of the array is? Oh, we have it right here. It's our argument, AR. And count will keep track. So at the first time, count is going to be 0. And then if we put a number in here, say we put the number 20, then count is going to move here, and then count will be 1. So since we have this variable count, that's going to keep track, but we also need a variable for this number that we get from the user, or we can put it right into the array. So either way, we can take the number and then assign it to the array, or we can put it right into the array directly at location count. So let's start by, we need to make sure that the user does not give a 0, because we do not want to put any zeros into the array. So let's get the number and then make sure it's not a 0. Let's get the number and then we'll assign it to the array. That's not the only way to do it, but I think that's the most straightforward way. All right, so we have our number, int num, and we're going to prompt. So we're going to printf, ask the user to enter it, and we're going to scanf. So the big part about programming is thinking of the logic. Now, if we scan directly into the array, we'd have to have a condition to make sure it was not a 0 before we tried to put it in the array. This way, we're going to get the number, we're going to make sure that it's not a 0, and then if it's not a 0, we're going to put it into the array. So and that means now that we put it into our location, now we need to, oops, I messed up here. That's not I, it's count. We're not using an I here, we're using count. Then we're going to add 1 to count to move up to the next place. And then we're going to get another number. And we're going to scan the number. And that's that's it for our while loop, and at the end we will return count. So let's run through this and make sure that we have the logic correct. So we start out, count is 0, we ask for a number, the user gives us a num. So the user gives us a 20, so count is 0 right here, so we would assign the, we'll just erase this, we'll assign the 20 right here, and then we'll move count to here. So then count will be 1. We get another number, the user enters a 30. We make sure 30 is not a 0, it's not a 0. So now count is 1, so we'll put the 30 here. Then we'll move count, will then become 2. We'll get another number, the user enters a 0. So 0 does not equal 0, this becomes false. And at the end, count was 2, and we will return count, which is a 2. So I think that that answers the question. Again, you could scan directly into the array, but if you scan directly into the array, you're going to have a condition to make sure that you don't scan a 0 directly into the array. All right, this is the last question. It has 3 parts. We're going to write a function, a main function, function definitions, and function prototypes. So let's just read what our functions are. We have a function called getLetPointer. It takes one argument, a pointer to a character, and it prompts and gets a character from the user and stores it there. And then we have a getInPointer. So we need to make a main function, the function definitions, and the function prototype. So let's get started on the next slide. All right, so this is function 1, getLetPointer. So we will have our function prototype up here, which is called getLetPointer. It takes a pointer to a character. So it takes a character pointer. This is the prototype, and it has a void return type. And this is our main function. And this is our function definition. Oops. So of course, when you do this, you're going to put them, I mean, they should both be on the same, share the main function, but because I can only fit so much on one slide, I'm going to do it on 2 slides. So this function will prompt the user to enter a character, get a character, and store it at that location. So you just printf, enter, and then scanf directly into, remember if it's a character you put the space. And since CPTR already is an address, you don't need address of. And the function call from the main would be char letter, and you call get let pointer and pass it address of, yes, that's an ampersand, letter. All right, so this is function 1, and if you were doing this on a test situation, of course you would put function 1 and function 2 both with the same main function, but since I don't have room, I'm going to do function 2 with a different main function. All right, so getInPointer is a void return type. This function takes a pointer to an integer. This is the prototype. This is the main function. Again, I repeat, if I had space, I would put everything on with one main function. And getInPointer is just going to prompt for get an integer and store it at endPointer. Printf. Scanf. And since it's an integer, you don't need the white space there. It goes directly into nptr without the ampersand. and the function call that takes address of num, and since it's a main function, you need a return 0. All right, so I hope this helps you to study for sample exam 2, and let me know if you have any questions.